Welcome everybody to the Finance Road Trip Podcast Part 2, the Black Wall Street Tour, also known as the Digital Financial Revolution Tour, where I take you on my journey to 22 cities with cryptocurrency exchange owner Naja Roberts with the goal to close the wealth gap through group economics and financial literacy and a focus on Bitcoin, which we believe to be the evolution of money. Naja Roberts and Hill Harper partnered to create the Black Wall Street Wallet, where you can buy, sell, and send your Bitcoin to your cold wallet. Make sure to follow me on all major platforms at CJ the Smart Guy and check out thedfrtour.com for more information on 2022 tour. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. So Washington, D.C. was extremely eye-opening for me. It was May 12th. We had just left Richmond, Virginia the day before. Now we had pulled up to D.C., and, when we get there, it's a whole bunch of people. They got the water bottles out there. They're handing them out. People are patiently waiting, and the environment is just great. And immediately I start recognizing people that I already know or I've moderated with or that I've seen before in the tour. So a couple people. So, Fred Brandon, like you said, we had seen each other in Richmond. And so he came out to D.C. It was a whole bunch of people that came out to D.C. I know. So from a BBB perspective, we have different moderators that talk on Clubhouse. And so some of the moderators came out. We had Charlene Fadirepo. She's one of the main moderators for the Black Bitcoin Billionaires on Clubhouse. She also recently partnered in creating a book called Bitcoin and the American Dream. It was her as well as Lamar Wilson and a bunch of other authors. And their goal was to educate politicians on what Bitcoin is and how it can change things. She's also the founder of Guidefi, which is a tech platform that provides free access to a national network of vetted, cultural, competent finance professionals in order to empower women and professionals of color to make better choices with their money. She focuses on Bitcoin in Nigeria. She's done lots of different Clubhouse events where they're talking about Nigeria because originally the Nigerian government had banned Bitcoin, but then the people said, well, we'll just use it peer-to-peer. We don't need exchanges and things of that nature. So Nigeria eased some of the restrictions on that. And now Nigeria is probably the number one country in the entire world in terms of Bitcoin usage, peer-to-peer transactions, things of that nature. And so she focuses on that. She's also part of the Pipeline Angels. That's like an investment group. She was actually on Good Morning America, where she donated $50,000 to the Hugh organization. The Hugh organization is an organization that helps Black women be heard and understood. And so she was able to go on Good Morning America, grant them with $50,000. I thought that was really cool. As well as she's a former Federal Reserve regulator. So, I might joke and, laugh and say she's the one who pressed the button to print out the money. And we both know that's not true. I just joke with her. But in all reality, Charlene's an extremely important person in this space. Her knowledge base is important. Her passion is important. So, seeing Charlene in D.C. was a real big event because, hey, we're all coming together. It's our first time meeting in person. So big shout outs to Charlene for showing up in D.C. And I almost forgot. She was also featured in Time magazine, as well as she got a whole bunch of children's books out so that the children can learn about Bitcoin and things of that nature. So big shout outs again to Charlene Fadirepo. I also got to meet Sinclair Skinner. He's the CEO of a company called I Love Black People, which is basically a database online of all the Black-owned businesses. So you can search like Houston food, and lo and behold, you'll see Turkey Leg pop up. You'll see different restaurants that are Black-owned pop up. So I think it's very important that we have a database like that. So anywhere I travel around the entire country now, I can find something that I'm looking for. And it's sorted out not just by like city, but you can search what type of activity you're looking to get into. Are you looking for entertainment? Are you looking for clothes? Are you looking for food? And so that database is nice. With the I Love Black People, he also has masks and t-shirts. I know he was donating some of the masks out there in DC. So big shout outs to Sinclair Skinner. He's also the founder of the Black Blockchain Summit. I went for the first time September 24th and 25th after the tour was over. However, the majority of it was virtual due to COVID. I went as well as a bunch of other people went in person, but for the most part, it was all virtual. I will have a podcast episode about the Black Blockchain Summit as well, so make sure you check that out with my bonus episodes. But back to the journey. So Another person that came out to DC was Jasmine Brunson, also known as Sahara Sounds. Sahara Sounds meaning she's a DJ, and so she'd be scratching up on the ones and twos. But her main focus is in like the data analytics and things like that. She believes that the data is very, very powerful. And so if it's used in the correct way, it can really help out your business. She considers herself like a data awareness activist. And so she founded something called the blockchain culture, which essentially empowers people to be able to use data and blockchain solutions to empower their businesses with a focus on Black people in particular. And so I believe that Jasmine's very important to this whole movement. And she's been going to the conferences for years, whether it's the Black Blockchain Summit, whether it's the Bitcoin conference. I've seen her in Miami as well. You'll hear more about Miami when I drop the Miami podcast episode. She also attended an event called Afro in Tech in Austin, Texas, as well as she came out to Houston, Texas for a rally for Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as for Al Green. You know, with the redistricting, they're trying to make the two Black representatives go against each other so that there's only one Black representative. And one thing she was saying was that type of strategy and redlining and gerrymandering has been going on in the communities all across the whole country. So she's very passionate about it. So big shout out to Jasmine for that. And she's also been to like the North American Bitcoin conference. So she's very plugged up in this space. Lots of respect, lots of love. She's been with Crypto Kenzie and Bitcoin Zay for some years now in this space. So it was just great meeting her. It was great meeting Sinclair. It's great meeting Charlene. Also who was there was Joanne Marshall. Big shout outs to Joanne. Fred Brandon, who's a BBB mod, but I spoke about him when it came to Richmond. We also had Suzette Lilly. She came out to DC. We had Aaron Harris. So one thing about Aaron, right? I'm not going to talk about all the things that we talked about. Aaron has traveled around the entire world. And so he has different perspectives when it comes to like vaccines or COVID or just different perspectives when it comes to like Tigray, Ethiopia, Eritrea area. And instead of talking about what we spoke about, I want to encourage everybody to try to travel around the entire world. Don't just depend on the news stations to bring you your information. Go out there and see it for yourself. Every country that you're in, the media is to some degree either controlled by huge corporations or the government. So they may not be presenting the news in a way that you would like to consume it. They may not be telling you the things that you really truly want to know. And so I think traveling helps out a lot. Speaking multiple languages, being well versed, understanding different cultures, not judging people off of different types of customs. So I think Aaron opened up my eyes to a lot of those different things. And we agreed on a lot of different principles, values, but he saw it from a whole different perspective a lot of times. And I think that's valuable. So big shout outs to Aaron for opening my eyes on that. I hope all of you guys travel, learn different cultures, things of that nature. Don't be just stuck here in America. Get your passports, go, make it happen, because those experiences will open up your eyes tremendously. Once you travel the world, your mind is open at that point. So I suggest everybody do that. A couple other people that came by. Uncle P, he actually went to Miami as well. He was in DC. Bunny Satchell, she was in DC as well as Marshall Johnson Jr. Marshall, myself, Aaron, Melissa, we were all at the same table while we were eating in DC. So we had lots of conversations, as well as my bodyguard. Overall, I think DC was a great place. However, I do want to note that there's a big separation in the wealth gap, meaning like you could see the White House and then only a couple blocks away, you can see people that are somewhat homeless living outside in the streets. And so DC is a very conflicting place in the sense where it's royal in one area, in another place it seems like extremely poorish. And so there's a huge separation. I do think that Howard University is a great college. However, I know that they've been having protests over there due to some of the rats and the living conditions. So DC has a lot of mixed feelings in my opinion. However, I do believe it's beautiful. And I do think that Howard is considered the Harvard of HBCUs. It's also the very first chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So when you look at Kamala Harris, our Vice President of the United States, she graduated from Howard University and she became an AKA, which is Alpha Kappa Alpha, at the original, aka founding spot, which is Howard University. So she's in the Alpha chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. DC was great. Howard is great. I do think that when it comes to the cost of living in DC, it's kind of high, but the location to me is great. You're not too far from Virginia. You're not too far from Baltimore, which means you're not too far from New York or Philadelphia. You know, me living in Houston, if I want to travel to a big city, it's always at least 3 or 4 hours away. And to go to another state, like imagine trying to drive from Houston to California. That's a 22-hour drive. But if you are in DC, you can travel up to New York in less than half a day. You can travel to Philly. You can travel to these places. So from a location perspective, I think DC is great. Cost of living is a little higher, but I think DC is a great place. It's very beautiful when you actually travel around. If you're in the inner cities, it can actually be very depressing because you're going to see lots of homeless people, lots of poor people out there. But yeah, gentrification is definitely real. They hide the DC that you know as the White House from the, the ghettos of DC. But overall, I think DC is really, really great. I'd love to go back. I appreciate everybody for coming out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. CJ the Smart Guy, I'm out. Deuce.